in the Battle of Yarmouk. And this is a battle, you can look up Western historians as well. I mean, this is not something that we just have in books of hadith or something. But it was a battle where the Romans were much better prepared. According to most historians, there were more than 200,000 Romans, not including 60,000 of Banu Ghassan, who were an Arab Christian alliance. Banu Ghassan were Arabs and they were aligned with the Romans. And in Yarmouk, the Persians, because at the time of Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anhu, the Persians, having suffered defeats, had also aligned with the Romans. So now you even had many Persians that were now fighting alongside with the Romans against the Muslims. According to the majority of the scholars of hadith and also Western historians, the Muslims were around 2,000. So you had 2,000, give or take, against 260,000 plus. So now, if you go by numbers, now the Muslim army was not a standing army, meaning that they didn't have the training that the Romans had, they didn't have the weapons that the Romans had. Most of them were just regular Sahaba, that from the Ansar that were farmers, and from the Muhajirin that were businessmen, and they were traders, and you know, when the time came to go, they got up and left. The Roman army was a standing army. They were professional soldiers. This is what they did for a living. Their training, their weapons were way advanced. So now if you think from a worldly perspective, there's no way the Muslims would win. In that battle, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah was the Amir of the army. The Romans, and this is something that Mu'jam al-Kabir is a book which mentions many of the biographies that talks about this. Under the biography I was reading earlier of a very interesting Sahabi, and I'll talk about him here. The Romans said, we're going to send the Arab to fight the Arab. Before, Yarmouk was not one day, and people think it was a 9-day battle, right? So in one of them they said, instead of sending Roman soldiers, we're going to send Banu Ghassan. And Banu Ghassan was 60,000 strong, with Roman backing and training. And when they went, and they saw only a few thousand of the Sahaba there, amongst the Tabi'un as well. The Sahaba were few, most of them were Tabi'un. They said, this is easy. This is going to be an easy battle. They had a couple of thousand people against 60,000 of us. You're in our home turf. You're in the Levant area, you know, the Sham. This is ours. At that time, Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, he made a shura. You know, today when we tell people, brother, you need to have taqwa, you need to Quran. People, man, these guys, look at the world and politics. Look at these guys. Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, he made shura. He said, okay, what should we do? Khalid ibn Walid radiyallahu anhu, he said, let me go by myself. So what, you want to go fight 60,000 by yourself? Are you crazy? He said, okay, I'll take 30 people. Abu Sufyan radiyallahu anhu was Muslim at this time. Abu Sufyan said, is he joking? Literally, he was like, is he joking? He wants to take 30 people to fight 60,000? Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah said, look, you have to use the means. You can't just do this kind of a thing. Take 60. What's using the means? Take 60 people. To fight how many? 60,000. Tariq is a witness to this. Now, this is the point of the khutbah, is what I'm about to say. So if you're zoomed out, pay attention to this part. How did he choose those 60? He didn't say, I want the biggest guy, who's got the big biceps, who hits the gym the most, who's got the most war experience, who's the best with weaponry, who's going to give me political. He said, no. He said, I know there are people in this army that if they make dua, Allah does not reject their dua. That's the people I want to choose. Quality, taqwa, piety. These were the elements that changed the game. So he went at night and he looked in the tents to see who was making dua, who was crying, who was praying, and he chose from them. And he chose none but Sahaba. And the majority of whom he chose were from the Ansar. Somebody told him, why? He said, because this is an obedience to the Sunnah. I saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would put the Ansar forward, so I want to make sure that they are with me. And he himself was ready. He chose likes of Fudail ibn Abbas, Fadl ibn Abbas, and then Zubair ibn Awwam. These are people who are related to the Prophet ﷺ, people of taqwa. And he chose from them Ikram ibn Abi Jahl, who was the son of Abu Jahl, and Harith, who was the brother of Abu Jahl. But they were Muslim at this time. But he realized that even though they had been away, they had been enemies of the Prophet for a long time. They were away from the haqq. But when they accepted the haqq, they accepted it in such a way that they were people of taqwa. One of the people he chose is Rafi' ibn Umayr. Some of the kutub of tariq have him as Ibn Umayra. Rafi' ibn Umayra, we don't know a lot about him. He was from the Ta'i tribe. But we know from the authentic references that he was a thief before. Because many of us, maybe we've gone down the wrong path. This is something that reminds us. He was a thief before. And he was a very capable thief. And he became Muslim very late. And he became Muslim when the Muslim conquests were moving. And Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhu was moving towards conquering areas. And they had hired him because he was the best at navigating through certain parts of the desert. And having seen the Sahaba and their salah and their dua and their good akhlaq, their good mannerisms with each other, and their obedience to their Amir and their love for the weak, and having seen that, he became a Muslim. But he became such a Muslim then, when he accepted Islam, he didn't half-step it. He wasn't like Muslim in the masjid and not when he hits the pub, you know. He wasn't Muslim in the masjid and when he goes out, he's like smoking and cussing. No. He became such a Muslim that Khalid ibn Walid chose him to be from that elite group. Now 60 Sahaba, all of them Sahaba, they went out with Khalid ibn Walid radiyallahu anhu, and they fought 60,000. One of the narrators, he says, I saw more than 20 attacks from Banu Ghassan only against Khalid ibn Walid. And because they knew that this was the man that if they killed him, their leadership would fall apart. And when Khalid ibn Walid, when he first went, Banu Ghassan thought that they were surrendering. When they saw 60 people coming, they thought this was a surrender party. You know? They said, I knew you guys would be. Jabala, the name of the leader of the Christian Arabs. He said, I'm going to put hard conditions on you guys today. You're surrendering. He said, no, we're here to fight. He said, are you kidding? He said, the Arab will laugh at me. Because he was Arab himself. That 60,000, we killed 60 people, they're going to laugh at me. He said, don't worry. Don't worry about their laughing. Worry about your retreats. He was shocked. So he said, this man, Khalid Walid, kill him. 20 attacks from this army geared towards him. And Zubair ibn Awwam and others, they would step forward, knowing that they were from the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With their tawakkul on Allah, they would push it back. Khalid ibn Walid would push himself in the heavy area of where the concentration was, and they would see them scatter in front of him. 60,000. He made smaller circles of 6 people, in some narrations of 10s, to make smaller groups, but they had their backs to each other. They made circles, so the enemy couldn't attack. They used the means, but tawakkul was their weapon. Subhanallah, Abu Bakr al-Jarrah, watching this with the rest of the army, he became impatient. Abu Sufyan told him, be patient. He said, no, I'm worried. These are the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I'll have to answer to Umar. And right when they were about to go, they saw, and history saw, 60,000 running from 60 men. The historians, Western and Muslim, they put the losses amongst the Sahaba at that initial stage at 10. And the losses to Banu Ghassan at 6,000. Do the math.